Welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate, a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach on a mission to help people build better relationships, starting with the one they have with themselves. In each episode, we'll dig deep, turn inwards, and embark on a transformative journey. Together, we'll break free from unhealthy patterns, rip through self-limiting beliefs, heal past wounds, and build unwavering self-worth, all to create healthier relationships as a result. Get ready to explore the wild, untapped potential within you. Are you ready to see just how wildly capable you are? Subscribe now and join us on this empowering adventure. Remember, your wildest capabilities await. People always ask me what finally did the trick when it came to breaking free from my terrible dating patterns once and for all. And I'm finally ready to share. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wildly Capable with Kate, the podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, and I'm on a mission to help you build better relationships, starting with the relationship you have with yourself. And this podcast is meant to do that exact thing. It's meant to help you learn how to date better, how to be a better partner, how to attract healthier matches. I am here to walk you through all of the steps that I took to transform my dating and relationship life. So buckle up because this episode is all about how I finally did that. What was kind of the tip of the iceberg, the kicker, the trick that finally helped me break free from my old patterns once and for all. But before I answer that question, I first want to tell you all about a retreat I'm hosting this Labor Day weekend in Dripping Springs, Texas. From August 30th through September 2nd, me and 10 other incredible women are going to be out in Texas Hill Country working on transforming ourselves and starting first within. We are going to learn what it means to be a wild woman, a woman who knows and owns her power, a woman who loves herself so much that her love for herself trickles over into everybody else around her, a woman who is free from the pains and the hurts and the traumas of her past and uses all of the work and the healing that she's done to help other people do the same thing. I want to guide you through all of that and so much more. We're going to go horseback riding. We're going to do a sound bath, yoga. There's going to be a private farm-to-table chef making our meals. It's going to just be an incredible weekend in a luxury Airbnb surrounded by your new best friends. I have 4 spots still available for the retreat. And for any of you women listening to this who are ready to heal and step into your power and become the woman you were always created to be, one of those spots is for you. And just by listening to this podcast, you get a special 10% off of the retreat. So by listening in, I want to show you how grateful I am that you are here and that you find value in the episodes that I share. So you get 10% off of the Wildly Capable for Women retreat. To get your 10% off, use code RETREAT at checkout on my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com, and I will see you this Labor Day weekend. Sign up now before spots run out. I will see you there. Okay, guys, now to answer the question of what finally helped me break free from my old, terrible, awful, unhealthy dating patterns once and for all. People ask me this all of the time. Because if you know my story, then you know that I have gone through a lot of difficult dating experiences. I've had toxic relationships, abusive relationships, dead-end relationships. I attracted the wrong men. I was unhealthy myself within the relationships. There were just so many patterns that I was perpetuating that were cyclical in my life that I had to finally break free from. I had to break those chains and walk away from those patterns in order to create the life that I have now. In order to be in a healthy relationship where I am engaged to my dream partner now. As a result, because I did all of that, I became a dating coach and I'm helping other people do the same thing. I'm helping other women and men around the world break their patterns, heal their self-limiting beliefs, overcome their negative mindsets, and heal from the pains of their pasts so they can create and attract the relationship they've been longing for. But how did I do it? Like, what actually was the defining moment that helped me completely transform everything? Let me tell you. In all honesty, you guys, and this probably isn't the answer that most of you are looking for, there was not one single defining moment where my patterns were broken. There was not one thing that happened that I can look back on and say, oh, that was it. That was a moment in time where I changed everything. It was a culmination of a lot of little moments that led to my healing. And I know so many of you listening to this clicked on this episode because you were hoping to get like a one-stop quick fix. You were looking for like that get rich scheme, that do it quick answer. And I know that because I was you. I tried everything in my power to find just an easy, quick way to heal, to overcome my patterns and my traumas. I tried therapy, yoga, hypnosis, meditation, sound baths, breath work. I tried everything. I did EMDR, which is a certain type of therapy. I did group therapy. I learned DBT and CBT, which are other therapeutic techniques. I truly tried everything because I knew that there was something going on inside of me that needed to heal. And I knew that once I healed it, my life would look a lot better. I didn't know exactly how because I hadn't done it yet, but I knew that there were traumas and mindsets and patterns and hurts from my past that were holding me back. I didn't fully know what they were or how they formed, and I definitely did not know how to break free from them, but I tried everything. I seriously, like I said, I tried everything. I went to all the different meetings, the different classes, I read all the different books, listened to all the podcasts. I looked for so many ways to heal. And my goal was to just find one that worked quickly so I wouldn't have to keep going through the same traumas that I was perpetuating on myself. I was exhausted and so tired of getting my heart broken. And I thought that if I just found that one thing that did the trick, then I would be good to go. Then I would find my person. Then I wouldn't go through another breakup. I looked and I looked and I looked for that one thing to do the trick. But there was not one thing that did the trick. There was not one moment that completely changed everything. There were many things that helped me heal, and there were many moments that led to that healing. I would say one of the first biggest moments that led to my healing, to my eventually healing, was when my best friend Jenna passed away when I was a freshman in college at Michigan State University. And when she passed away, while it was and still is one of the worst things that's ever happened to me, it was the thing that I needed to happen to help me wake up and see that I was no longer meant to be living the life that I was. I was no longer meant to be in my hometown and wasting away and not pursuing my capabilities and my passions and my potential. So when Jenna passed away, because she saw so much potential and greatness and healing and just beauty within me that I couldn't see within myself, I knew I had to honor her and her memory and start to pursue those things. So she became the catalyst for the first step in my healing journey. And like I said, this was just the first step. There were many, many more. There were many things that I had to uncover and work through to even continue that healing journey. Jenna's passing and what I learned from it was just one step in that process. So that was the first one. That is where kind of my healing journey started. But even back then, back when I was 18, 19 years old when she passed away. And when I moved from Michigan to California to go to the University of Southern California, even though those were big moments in my life, there were still so many hurts and traumas from my past that I was completely unaware were still affecting me today. So like I said, that was the first step, but there was a lot more work to do. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast, you know that I gave a whole episode explaining a time period in my life where I was so just broken and depleted and depressed and traumatized and anxious. I was going through another abusive relationship that I quite literally had to be hospitalized for my mental health. If you haven't heard that episode, please scroll back and find it in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're listening to this podcast through. Scroll back and listen to it because it really talks about how I broke free from abusive, toxic relationships. But when that happened in my life, that was another stepping stone in my healing journey. So I was going through an emotionally toxic and abusive relationship. And I was in that relationship for about a year. And there was one night where things just got so bad, where I was so twisted up in my own thoughts and my own reality and my own pain that I kind of snapped. I kind of had a complete mental breakdown. And my boyfriend at the time called the cops and they ended up taking me to a psych ward overnight. I was there for one night. But that one night alone was enough to shake me to my core. I thought I had completely ruined my life in that moment. I thought that there was no bouncing back from that. I was embarrassed. I had so much shame. I couldn't understand how things had gotten so bad, how I had allowed that relationship to hurt me so much. I just was completely devastated that I was even in that place. But at the same time, it also became a moment in my past where I knew it was time to make a change. I always say that was one of the worst and best nights of my life because I was forced to look at myself in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, look at you. Like, you keep entering these awful relationships with these toxic, unhealthy men who are totally mistreating you. What is that? Why does that keep happening? Why do you keep attracting and more so allowing that to happen? So I had to face myself. And that is when I started to uncover a lot of patterns of attracting the same sort of just unhealthy, broken men. That was the start of the journey in me becoming aware of those patterns. It was another step in my healing journey. But still, again, it was not the last step. It was not the defining moment. You would think that me going to a literal psychiatric hospital would be the pivotal moment, and it was in many ways. But again, there was not one singular instance where my whole life changed. There were many things that led to the transformation within myself and then externally in my world as well. That was another one. Through that experience, many other little moments happened afterwards that played a huge role in my healing. So after I was in the psych ward, I started going back to my faith. I committed to rebuilding my relationship with God, and I did, and I have a beautiful relationship still today. I started volunteering at my church, and I started to look outwardly and not just be so wrapped up in my own problems and my own world and my own thoughts, but I started to actually give myself to other people. I started volunteering at my church. I worked in our Sunday school team, our kids team. I served in our production team, helping actually produce the gathering every Sunday. And I started going on numerous missions trips where I would travel around the world with my church, serving different communities. So I went to Africa 3 times. I worked in Malawi in a school with the kids for 3 different years. I went to Lebanon. I went to Mexico City. I really committed myself to the volunteering, the beauty of volunteering, the process of volunteering. And volunteering and giving myself and my energy and my time and my love to other people was a huge part of my healing. It was a huge part of releasing myself from the shame of my past and of learning to forgive myself and learning to love myself again, because I was focused externally on loving other people. And while I didn't see it happening, that returned that love back to me tenfold. So after that difficult night with my ex-boyfriend, so many beautiful and amazing things happened. I even went to a leadership college at my church, and I credit that time. I think it was a 1-year program, but it was, for me, more than anything, it was a deep dive into my character. I learned how to hold a mirror up to myself and say, oh my gosh, look at those things within you and within your heart and your ego that are so controlling your life right now. And I was able to shed light on them and then start to change them and transform them. And I do believe that it was during this time period where some immense transformation happened in my heart. It didn't just happen, in my external world, it happened within. And that's how it became everlasting change. I discovered the flaws in my character and I started to work through them. And again, it was just the start. There were still many things that happened after that, many other moments, things that are still happening that I'm still uncovering. And I do believe that breaking free from patterns and becoming a healthier version of you, it's a lifelong journey. And it's not to say that you should always be seeking, always be trying to improve yourself. There is something to be said for just accepting yourself and loving yourself and letting that change happen naturally. If you are constantly focused on self-development, you're going to miss out on so many things in life. But I do believe it's a lifelong journey. I do believe that with time, more things, even now today, even after I've gone through these many moments in this long journey of healing, I do believe that many more things will come to light. I will start to see new things about my character. I will start to pay more attention to different facets of my ego, and I will have to work through those and become aware and heal those too. So while I'm explaining to you guys what that thing was that helped me break free from my patterns once and for all, I also want you to know that it's a practice, it's a commitment, and I will get more into that later. But this period in my life, it was back in 2018 to like 2020, there was a lot of change happening within that started to shift my external world too. I started to shed unhealthy friendships and attract really beautiful friendships in my life. The friendships that I still have today, the people that will be the women that will be my bridesmaids at my wedding next year. It was during that period where I formed those friendships. So it was a really beautiful, really powerful period of my life. And I don't know how long it would have taken me to get to that period had I not had those really difficult moments in my past that helped me see, oh my gosh, you're kind of at rock bottom. You need to make some changes. So I'm grateful for those moments because it led to these beautiful times, these beautiful seasons in my life. But again, it was still just a season. There were still many other things that happened after that that continued me on my healing journey. The next big thing that happened that helped me break free from my dating patterns once and for all was actually being in another extremely toxic relationship back in 2021. So if you know my story, if you've been following my social media or listening to this podcast, then you know that kind of my history with difficult dating experiences started back when I was in high school, when I was 15 years old and dated an unhealthy partner and was in an unhealthy, toxic, abusive relationship for roughly 5 years. That's when it all started. That's when all these patterns formed. But you would think that after I got free from that relationship, I would never go back to another relationship like that, right? Like you would think that I learned enough and I didn't let it happen again. But in all honesty, unfortunately, what happened for me and what happens oftentimes is that people who experience abuse, whether in their childhood, in their home, or in early relationships, they then get into other difficult, toxic, unhealthy, abusive relationships down the road. And this happens because numerous reasons. One, because we learn at an early age that sort of mistreatment, we come to believe that's normal. We see it so much, we experience it so much that becomes our norm. And so we don't know that there are better relationships, better partners out there. And it takes a rude awakening, like what I'm talking about through all of my experiences, to help us kind of be shaken up to see that this is not okay, this is not acceptable. So the first reason that people who are abused continue to be abused is because we start to see that as a norm. It's what our brains become familiar with, and it's what our brains then seek out over and over because it's what we're comfortable with. And the second reason is because when we go through traumas, we oftentimes seek out the same sorts of people or relationships or experiences in an attempt to rewrite the narrative with this new person, relationship, or experience. Because if we can change the outcome the second time around, it makes us feel more like we are in control of what happened the first time around. It helps us feel as though we are reclaiming our power. When in reality, they are two separate situations, and what happens in this new situation does not change what happened in the old one. But that's kind of what happens in our psyche. We think that if we, aren't dumped this time around, or we are in a healthy relationship this time around, or that person doesn't leave us this time around, then that means what happened in the past doesn't have as much weight over us anymore. When in reality, we need to go back and heal what happened in the past so we do not continue that same pattern in the future. But those are two of probably a few reasons as to why people who are in toxic relationships end up being in toxic relationships down the line again. And for me, that was true. So I went through that unhealthy relationship back when I was in high school. I broke free from it. I moved to California. I really transformed a lot about me, like I just was explaining to you guys. But still, even after stepping back into my faith and doing so much healing work, going to therapy, forming new friendships, even after all of that, still years later in 2021, I was in another unhealthy relationship again. And this relationship, I always say and believe, was worse than my high school relationship. Because this one happened, when I was a fully formed adult. I was 26, I think, by the time I started dating this guy. And I already had all the tools. I was doing all the healing work. And yet I fell into another horrible situation. And this one was even worse than my high school relationship because he was an adult. He was 31, 32 years old. I was 27, and still he was treating me just absolutely terribly, manipulating me, lying to me, cheating on me, twisting me up in my own reality. It was the deepest trauma bond I've ever been in. And it took a lot of work, a lot of courage to break free from it. And it was in that moment when I finally broke free from that trauma bond where I felt so much healing finally rush in. Things that had not been healed before started to heal through me finally standing up for myself. It was one of the first times where I said, this is unacceptable. This is not okay. I know I deserve more than this. I love myself more than this. So I'm going to leave. In the past, I didn't love myself enough to leave. And I didn't leave. I stayed with unhealthy men to the point where I believed that God had to protect me and have them break up with me because I would have never done it myself. But in this moment, in this new relationship back in 2021, I was the one who made that decision. Yes, he was playing games with me and he would break up with me, then get back together with me and like put me on this loop over and over. That was his form of manipulating me and getting me hooked on him. But in the end, it was me who went to him and said, here's all the things you've done to hurt me. Here's why they are not acceptable, why they go against my values. Here's what I know to be true and how much I love myself. And I am going to leave you and this relationship behind once and for all because of that. And when I did that, when I had that conversation, I just was really proud of myself. I felt so much like peace in knowing that I could finally rely on myself. I could finally trust myself. I could finally turn to myself. I returned to the home within myself in that moment. I regained my power in that moment. And it really was such a healing experience for me because even though it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, like I said, I was being extremely manipulated. I couldn't see left from right. I couldn't figure out up from down. I was so confused. I was so twisted up. And still I was able to pull myself out of that place. I was able to break free. And it was incredibly powerful and life-changing once I did that. So that was a big moment in me breaking free from my patterns. Because I said, no more am I going to allow this sort of treatment in my life. No more am I going to attract these sorts of men. It's not going to happen ever again, and I'm going to stand up for myself once and for all. But honestly, you guys, still, even though that was such an amazing moment for me and for the process of breaking my patterns, the patterns still didn't completely break. Because you want to know what happened next? I got into another relationship. It was just a quick fling. I think we were only officially boyfriend, girlfriend for maybe a month, not even. But this new guy that I started dating after the toxic relationship I was in 2021, he had a lot of the same tendencies. And the relationship itself was very new, but I could still see a lot of the same patterns at play. And then what happened is we started dating. And then roughly 4 weeks later, not very long after we started, saying we were officially dating, that new guy came to me, and a day before my birthday, he broke up with me. He broke up with me, just hours before he was supposed to go to a dinner with me and all of my friends to celebrate my birthday. And I was absolutely shocked. And my first initial instinct was to beg him not to make that decision. I started to, on the phone call, he broke up with me over the phone. I started to tell him, please no, just go to the birthday dinner with me. Let's just figure this out afterwards. You don't have to make this decision. We can figure this out. I reverted back to my old pattern of trying to get men to stay, of trying to get men who hurt me and did something that is clearly not okay to stay with me. I went back to that pattern in that moment. But luckily, I took a beat. I got off the phone. I regained my confidence. I refound my power again. And right after that conversation, we had one more. And I just said, okay, I don't understand your decision, but I'm going to respect it. No problem. I wish you nothing but the best. No worries. And I chose myself again. And if you were to ask me if there was one single defining moment that finally helped me break free from my dating patterns, my patterns of attracting unhealthy partners, of staying in unhealthy relationships, of being unhealthy within myself, within those relationships, if you were to ask me if there was one singular moment, I would probably point to this moment. Because it was another instance where I had to take a step back and say, no, that is not okay. Who breaks up with somebody hours before their birthday dinner? That's not a man that you want in your life. And I had to choose myself in that moment. So there were many, many times where I had to learn how to choose myself, where I had to learn how to love myself. And all of these moments and many more that I could tell you all played a role in helping me break free from my unhealthy dating patterns. Every single one led to me breaking those patterns. And still, honestly, sometimes those patterns surface because they are deeply ingrained within me. But now I am aware of them, and now I know how to combat them, fight them, and not let them control me. And if you are listening to this and you know that you have some unhealthy habits or patterns or mindsets when it comes to dating and relationships, know that it will likely be the same for you. There will not be one big earth-shattering moment where you just completely transform your character and your heart and your mind. It will take a lot of work. It will take a lot of moments, but it is possible. And I know it is possible because I have done it. I'm sitting here today engaged and in love and in a safe, healthy relationship where I do not have to worry about any unhealthy elements being present. I'm here. I did it. I broke free from those patterns, and I know that the same can happen for you. But I'm recording this episode and explaining to you all the different things that I had to go through on my journey so you can understand that there will not just be one big thing. There will be a lot of work that goes into breaking your dating patterns, your unhealthy dating patterns. There will be many moments where you have to choose something better, where you have to choose to be a higher, healthier, wiser version of yourself and not backslide into that old version of you. You will have to literally look yourself in the mirror and fight yourself and say, no, that is not who you are anymore. You've healed more. You've learned more. You are wiser. You are healthier. You're better. Choose something new for yourself. And it will take a little bit of pushing and pulling within you to choose that better thing. Because like I said, we get comfortable with these unhealthy things. They feel familiar to us. We feel safe with them. And it takes actual work and a literal decision to choose something else. And you will have to choose that something else over and over and over again. And like I said earlier in the episode, it will become a practice, and it will likely be a practice that you have to continue for the rest of your life. Because if it took you 10, 20, 30 years to create the patterns that you have now, it will not take you 10 days to undo them. It will take consistent effort and consistent work and consistent awareness. And that is the beauty that comes in breaking these patterns. You get to choose yourself over and over and over again. You get to choose something better for yourself over and over and over again. And every time that you do make those decisions, you do make those better choices, you will learn to love and trust and respect yourself more and more, and it will cause others around you to love, trust, and respect you more in return. So give it a try. Make it a practice. Start to choose better things for yourself. Fight yourself in the moments where you want to choose the easy thing. Look yourself in the mirror and say, nope, I'm stronger than this. I'm more courageous than this. There is more waiting for me in my life than what I'm accepting right now. And choose the hard thing. Don't call your ex. Don't allow treatment that you know is wrong. Don't stay in relationships that you know are not meant for you. Don't allow people to disrespect you. Walk away. Choose yourself. Heal. Do the hard work of getting a coach or a therapist to heal these patterns once and for all. It takes work, but it is the best work you will do. So choose it. Commit to yourself. Commit to your future. And if you are ready to have somebody guide you in that process, then please reach out to me. Head to my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com. Fill out my coaching application under the tab that says Work With Me, and then I will reach out to you to set up a call. I would love to get to know you, and I would love to help you break the patterns that I have broken myself in my own life. I would love to be kind of like the big sister or the guide for you as you do that. I wish that I had had and hired somebody many, many years ago to help me, break free from these patterns much sooner than I did. To not have to keep repeating the same things and have those many moments, because I went through a lot of moments, like I've explained, to start to break my patterns. I would love to have done it sooner. And I believe that I would have done it sooner had I had a mentor and somebody guiding me in the process. It was when I truly found wise people and hired a coach. I had my own relationship and trauma coach that I started to see the behaviors change. Yes, therapy was amazing for me. I believe that therapy, when I started it back in 2017, back when I first went to the psych ward, that's when I started to get my first therapist. I believe that it was absolutely transformational and necessary for my growth. But the thing with therapy is that I talked and talked and talked about what had happened in my past and the traumas that I was facing. And I had a deep understanding of them. I could write a book about them, but the behaviors were not changing, even though I had that understanding. It was when I had somebody holding me accountable, calling me out, and cheering me on, my coach, when things started to actually transform. Coaching gives you the tools, therapy gives you the awareness. So if you are ready to build those tools and that awareness and have somebody hold you accountable to change your patterns and your behaviors in your heart, head to CoachKateDeRocher.com or find me on Instagram or TikTok at Coach Kate DeRocher. Reach out to me, fill out my coaching application, and we will hop on a call. And we will start this incredible transformational journey together. I would love to come alongside you as you do so. Again, remember that if you were listening to this podcast, you also get 10% off of my Wildly Capable for Women retreat. So head to my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com, use code RETREAT at checkout, and I will see you this Labor Day weekend in Dripping Springs, Texas. I am so excited to meet you all, to get a chance to work with you all, and I hope that this episode helps you see that change is around the corner for you. It is possible for you to break free from your patterns, but it will take work and it will take time. And it will take you committing to the process and choosing better for yourself over and over and over. There will not be one specific moment. It will be many moments that lead to the everlasting change. Thank you all so much for listening in to Wildly Capable with Kate. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, like this episode, engage with the episode by commenting or answering my poll question. I would love to hear your thoughts. It means the world to me that you all tune in week after week. So I will see you here next time on Wildly Capable with Kate. Thank you guys again for tuning in.